Hello. Welcome to Spill the Data. I'm Sadani Daly
And I'm
with
Timothy Aiken.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to everyone. This is the first recording of the new year. If you hadn't noticed, we took a little break. Along with our school break, took a little break from recording. But we're back at it. Hopefully, we'll be back on a weekly schedule after this coming up. Um, every Thursday, 6 p.m., we'll be doing live. Oh, that's 6 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be doing premieres on YouTube. So if you want to come chat, talk with us about what we're talking about, and everyone else in the chat, then join us at 6 p.m. Otherwise, just leave your comments in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to respond.
All right. So let's kick 2021 off with talking about this ISA.
Yeah, the income share agreement, and a lot of the new bootcamp models people are seeing that are starting up. I guess we're going to discuss, what makes that better? What makes an income share agreement better than a much cheaper self-study program that you can find online? Because I know you can go to places like Udemy, you can find courses that are $200, but if you get them at the right time, they're only $14. So, what makes paying or committing to a $30,000 income share agreement with a school like Lambda or a couple of the other ones that are doing that now? Copycats, but well, why did we choose this path?
Right. And also, like, what is it in for the company? Because they are pretty much signing up to say, we only get paid if you succeed and you get a job in the specific industry, in that specific role, and that's the only time you get paid. So why would a
and
company...
for specific amount of money?
Right.
So you have to make at least, in our case, $50,000 a year before you start paying off your income share agreement. So I'm going to refrain from calling it a student loan. I'm sure Austin would roll over in his bed. He's not dead yet, but he would probably be very upset if he heard me say pay off your loan, because the whole model of an ISA is to do away with the student loans model where you have to pay it back no matter what. I mean, no matter what, you can file bankruptcy and everything else. You will never get rid of your student loans, whether you get a job or not, ever in your field. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't get jobs,
or they get jobs in their field, but the pay is like not sufficient to sustain their life and pay the student loan off.
And pay the student loans, which means then, you've heard the horror stories. The interest builds and builds. You're paying on it for 7 years. Sometimes you look back and it's still more than it started. So, with the ISA, a major difference in that and with student loans is, you pay 17% at Lambda School of your income after you get a job making $50,000 a year or more, and you only pay that for 24 months. I could say 2 years, but it's 24 months more specifically, because if you stop working for like 2-3 months in between jobs, you get laid off, you take a hiatus, whatever it is, you don't have to pay for those months until you get back to starting. You're not required payment those months. So it's and nothing builds. There's no interest involved. It's just a simple 17% of your income over 24 months, which was another big plus for me. I'll tell all the pluses that.
Right, because if you make $50,000 a year, you basically pay them $8,500. So that's like not that bad, considering a lot of people don't have salary jobs or making, that's like the medium. And in this field, you tend to make a lot more than that. So
and
it seems like a win-win for us.
It is kind of, especially when you do the math backwards.
I guess my thought is though, like, what business person really has a model that's like a win-win for the customers? Like, what's the draw for this business model? Like, why would you want to create this business model? How does this make money for you?
I think they find the need. They see that there's a huge need for people in data science and developer fields. they know that they can get as many people that will successfully complete their program into careers. So it's almost like a giant job placement service
Yeah,
with
social.
training involved,
System.
So I mean, for them, the model is, they don't have a whole lot of cost involved. I mean, of course they do have to pay instructors, you
Well,
know.
I mean, you have to pay for the lecturers, you pay for the career personnels who help you, with your resume building and securing interviews. So I mean, they do have a significant staff.
They do. They do. I'm not sure what those people are paid. We're not privy to that information yet. But I guess it's all worked into the business model. They probably wouldn't. They obviously couldn't continue to pay, and I think that's one of the reasons why they may have recently cut the staff down some and taken away the TA role.
Yeah.
It's because maybe they didn't get as many people as quickly as they thought they would joining. And it's a model that can grow. But I mean, if you think about, let's say, in 2 years, let's say I get a job only making 50,000 a year. In 2 years, I will pay Lambda School $17,000, and my obligation will be done. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the 100,000 divided by 17%, that's pretty easy math.
Right.
So I did the math to figure out, well, how do they get the $30,000 that would be the option? The other option is you can pay 30,000 up front,
Right.
and then owe them nothing ever at all, and just take it at your own pace, finish it at or don't. So I did the math, and it's, I think, around $86,000 a year I'd have to make, a little less than that maybe, for them to get their $30,000 from.
Right.
So then it clicks in my head going, well, for them to get their money, I've got to get a job making way more than $50,000 a year, or not way more, but a good amount more
Right.
than
Yeah.
way more than I was making, and a good amount more than 50,000 a year. So they've given themselves a buffer. So they figure that they'll probably get people in jobs making somewhere between, I'm thinking 70 and $120,000 a year, and I know that number's not impossible because it has happened.
Right.
So I mean, it's been reported to us. We also get to see a higher channel on our Slack channel through Lambda,
Right.
and in that channel, they get to brag about who got hired where, and we all cheer and throw emoji parties. But
Which
so we
is
get to see
very,
that this does
very nice.
work.
Yeah.
Some people, I've heard from some people though that you either get hired right off the bat, or it may take a long time
Long
before.
time. Yeah. Like I've seen people saying they've been, signing out, applications and not getting responses or getting rejections. Like just like 6 months in, they're still grinding it out, and eventually something comes through. But I guess like this model is about like investing in people, right? So a part of it feels very like a social system, like a system of like providing a service to people who want to excel or who want to like change your life or have a career shift. So I guess it comes from a good place.
Yeah, I mean, consider the source. Like Austin is, if you look at his origin story, I think he was, living in his car. He wasn't, he wasn't happy with the way things were going. He sunk all of his at one point put all of his entire life savings and net worth into Tesla stock, believe it or not, and Tesla went boom for a little while, and he cashed it all out and decided to start Lambda School. And he did it in I don't know exactly what how he learned himself, how he learned so much about coding and all of that. I think he went to Silicon Valley with the intent of landing a great job in tech. And when things didn't work out, that's where the story picks up where I started. Then he's living in his car, he's not doing so great, and he's like, there's got to be a better way, a better way that people can be trained, can be like helped into careers. There's so many people that need work, but there's not as many people that are
Qualified.
qualified, and there aren't and for those, it's like even if there are people who are qualified, there aren't as many that are ushering in those that aren't college graduates.
Right.
So he needed a way to find a way to like to reach the hackers of the world, the dropouts of the world, the gamers of the world, the
Right.
people that are just, they love tech and computers,
Right.
but didn't
And
know
what was
how to get
interesting is that
tech
some
jobs.
of the people who were like going through like 4-year degree programs were coming to the industry still not knowing how to do what they need to do on the day-to-day basis. Like they were learning the theory, but they weren't learning the practical application. So
Right.
I guess that kind of puts them in the same playing field as a
Yeah.
person, right?
Yeah. So it kind of, I guess that's what Lambda kind of does. It takes the knowledge that you'll get out of self-study, um, of doing like Udemy courses and things. Like you can learn how to code, you can copy what they do and figure out how to create, you know, choropleth maps. And I'm only speaking from my experience in a very intro to Python course. Learn how to load databases or data frames you know, into Colab, or in this case, we use Jupyter Notebooks. But you learn things like that, what Colab is, what Jupyter Notebooks are, what the very basics are to get you started. But then when it comes to your capstone, you have to take some, answer some programming questions, and you show what you've learned, but you haven't really done anything. You haven't produced anything that you can use or show, like, this is some work that I've done. This is some experience that I've had in the field. And that's what Lambda School does great, is like each time we're at the end of a unit, we create a unit project. It's called a build.
I have been seeing some pushback like on Twitter and other social media platforms where there are people saying, you don't need to go to these boot camps. Like, I did it myself. I'm self-taught. I built my own portfolio and I was able to get like a successful job. So it's like, is Lambda, like, they say that they're trying to buck tradition, but is also like signing up for a school not in a way a traditional path? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, more power to you. Like if you're dedicated and disciplined enough to teach yourself everything you need to know, to research what it is the companies want you to know, there are definitely videos. Like, for instance, I learned Forex over the course of about 4 years. I probably could have learned just as much over the course of about 6 months had I had somebody that was experienced and already working in the field teaching me what was important to know, and what was
Right.
important, and what's like just garbage that you can play with all day long, but by the time you get out in the field, nobody cares if you know how to do this. It's not going to be anything that anyone has to do. So it's like I see it as like a filtering mechanism, that helps us focus on the things that companies are looking for nowadays, and gets us prepared to learn the next up and coming challenges that are going to come out, the new libraries that are going to come out,
Right.
rather than focusing on a lot of the old things, that's still important to know. We still have to know how to, create for loops. You still have to know how all the old programming um, methods worked, or by the time you get into somebody else's code, you're going to be completely lost. You're not just going to be able to apply brand new techniques and things if you don't know how to break them down in good old fashioned matplotlib. Even though matplotlib's not old fashioned, I should say good old fashioned, C++ or Pascal. But
Right.
um, so yeah, it's I think Lambda's definitely, you can look at it one of two ways. People look at it as like, this is a godsend. I don't know how I was going to get myself into a tech job. All these jobs want a 4-year degree or a master's degree or a PhD to even apply. But you're telling me that in a year's time, I can go to one of those jobs that's asking for a master's degree and say, hey, look what I've done.
Right.
They'll make that exception.
No, it's definitely changing lives, especially for people who normally wouldn't be able to figure out a way out of their predicament.
Right.
There's definitely been some awesome stories of people like rising out of poverty or homelessness, or like, just
But
in bad situations.
if you know a data scientist, and he's willing to tell you everything you need to pick up and guide you. If you have a mentor in this, then yeah, you might not need Lambda School. You know, you might not need any of the boot camps. But you're gonna have to dedicate, you know, work daily. You're gonna have to be putting things into your GitHub often enough to show that you're, you know, have activity. You're going to have to continuously show that you're working. And I personally don't have that kind of self-motivational
Yeah,
drive.
me neither. I'm like, I need Lambda to be like, hey,
I need the structure. That's
yeah.
just me. I mean, I think that's true with a lot of people. You know, it's too easy to be like, yeah, okay, cool. I know that I'm making progress on that. But unless you're super excited about it and it's what you love to do, and you're going to get up every day and do it just for fun,
Yeah.
it's going to get as far as quickly.
Right. And I also like the career services that they provide, because even if you're like super into coding and that's your jam, you still need to know how to like do a technical interview, how to like interview in the first place, just to like have correspondence and feel a connection with whoever you're speaking to. So I think they do kind of groom you in that way to make you a little bit more marketable. So I think that's a plus side for definitely for sure that they have in their program.
Yeah. It is good. I mean, even though I admittedly have not enjoyed all of the career stuff, I feel like it's an interruption from my studies and all that. But I've been in quite a lot of interviews. I feel like I can kind of handle myself in a public forum, or else I probably wouldn't do a podcast. You know,
no, I heard that. I think
camera. But not everyone's there. You know, some people need that. You know, just a little bit of a push, or you know, a little bit more ability to be able to free flow in their thought.
And I think for me, why I like it is just like I'm like completely a newbie to tech. So yes, in my past, like I've gotten jobs, etc. But just like that imposter syndrome is real, right? So like it sets in like, do I even know enough tech? I didn't go to a 4-year school to get this knowledge. So do I really belong here? So just having that like, yes, you can do this. This is the steps. What it looks like. Just like that preview, and then you just bring the rest of your A game, I think is really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's like Lambda's. It builds on anyone's weak points. You know, if your weak point's tech, you're gonna learn a lot about tech. If your weak point is personal interviewing and just it's speaking in a group setting, you're gonna have to get used to that, because we work on projects together. We have breakout rooms where we have meetings. We used to have stand-ups all the time when everyone would have to go around the room and say something about themselves or whatever it is. It gets us, even though we're not face to face, still, the feelings are the same. The nervousness is the same. The anxiety is real, so it's like we're still getting that at least really good at remote face-to-face conversations. And
that's interesting you bring that up, because like for grad school, like I did a couple classes where it was like online, but there like you didn't have that community, wasn't there? Like you just like you go on, you submit something, you read somebody else's thing, you make a comment on it. But I feel like Lambda has somehow figured out a way to build like a genuine community remotely. Like, like even on Slack, like we ended up having these like little breakout Slack rooms. And I'm just like, that's a really interesting, because I never thought it would be possible. Like I thought, okay, I'm just going to go here, watch these videos, do these projects. And, like, I'm never going to like make any connections with anybody.
Right.
So I thought it was pretty cool.
The connections, that's it, and I mean, it's almost like, I don't want to say almost like going to college, but it really is almost like going to college. Right? And I mean, I've been to college, went to University of Delaware back in '94 for a little bit. So I mean, it's almost, minus the parties, of course, but we still have our own little groups. We have
definitely form
people
cliques.
That consider friends. Even and I guess the internet's doing that to us nowadays, though. Facebook made friendship a whole different thing. It doesn't necessarily mean going and hanging out over somebody's house anymore. Just being able to, communicate and know that you know each other, and keep in touch, share difficulties, help each other through struggles, whatever it is. It's like all those connections are really happening at a place like Lambda School. And if you're doing it, you're in Udemy, you're on your own.
Right.
Even even some of the courses that give, assign you a one-on-one mentor to help you through, or just to check your progress, things like that. It's still just you. And I don't, trust me. I'm not taking anything away from people that go that route. If that's the way you want to go, that's the way you want to do it. There are still places out there that will hire you. I'm sure of it.
And if you have that discipline and fortitude, then go for it, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually signed up for one, so I'm talking about it like it's a horrible thing, but I did sign up for one starting in April, which is a month
Sign up
before.
for.
Oh man, you're gonna make me look it up. Give me a sec.
Is it on Udemy?
No, it's you know what? I'm gonna send it to you though because it's something you'd be interested in.
Okay.
It's for people that want to get involved in tech that are in whatever minority groups or whatever
Okay.
underrepresented groups, I should say, not necessarily minorities. Um, but yeah, I will. I'll send you that information after this because I'm gonna look through my emails for a while here, and I doubt I'm gonna find it. Hold on.
Another thing I've been seeing a lot too is like a lot of colleges, like Stanford, I think Harvard, are like offering these like free intro to computer science courses where you get a certification at the end. So I feel like a lot of traditional schools
Okay, that
are
was
looking at this and saying, oh, this is something that is viable, and maybe the whole course of education is changing.
yeah. This is called a. It's called DS4A empowerment data science for all. So DS4A data science for all, and it is I think through Harvard.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
And it's specifically data science.
It is. It
Okay.
is. It's definitely all. It's a data science curriculum. It's about 6 weeks, I think. Let me think. But it's
And
only
how
on
do you?
Saturdays.
Okay.
It's only on Saturdays. It's like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's intensive,
Okay.
Um, but it's 1 day a week for. Here's the actual schedule.
So do
Two,
you feel like that will like
5, 6,
add to
7,
what you're already
8,
learning
9,
here at Lambda?
12, 13. For 13 weeks, but they're 13 spread out weeks.
Okay.
Um, it's like 3 weeks a month.
Okay.
So sometimes you get 2 weeks off. And I mean, some of the stuff seems like it's hand in hand with what Lambda taught.
Okay.
Um, I just kind of I want to add a little, I don't know. I want to solidify everything I've learned. I want, a little extra practice. I want to know that I'm solid on all these things and also
Right.
get it from a different perspective.
Right.
Not just learn from one person, but if I go there and I'm like, wow, all this stuff on this, everything we're learning is what I already know, then I'll know I'm ready for this.
Right.
I mean, I'll know that that's two different, um, like I said, perspectives from different educators that are saying this is what you need to be a successful data science today.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was also something I looked at. It's there's no cost as far as I understand. Oh, that's what it was. It's all free, but then I think it's a $200 fee for the test or whatever for the
Okay.
endorsement. So
Gotcha.
like if you want the certificate, if you want to go through the testing at the end and get your you know your graduation, whatever you want to consider that. But if you want to be able to claim them,
Yeah.
you pay like $200 or something. So I'm like, okay, it's worth
That's
it.
not bad.
Yeah.
So it feels like Lambda is kind of like pushing this, this new direction of education. If you have like a school like Harvard offering something for free, and then you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
Harvard's very like a traditional, one of the oldest schools I think in America. So that's interesting.
Right. They've also got another one. I'll just yeah I'll see. I don't want to muddy this up with a bunch of half information here. So, but I know that one of our other Joanne, one of our other classmates, found one that's definitely through Harvard. It's a list of like a YouTube video list I can send you. Um, that breaks down not just data science but just computer science in general. It gets down to what exactly is going on down to the very the very basics of a computer. It talks about what binary is, what binary numbers are, how you carry the one in binary,
Yeah.
as opposed to carrying the one in, decimal system. So you don't go to 9 and then carry the one. You go to 1, then you carry the one. Because you go to 1 and go to 0, then you move the one over. So I actually know how to like how I could figure out how to represent something in binary and any large numbers. So it's cool. I haven't really done a whole lot into that yet because I want to focus on doing Lambda, doing it well, and then I'm going to break off into some more things. I've had some basic computer science courses already, as like at UOD and in high school. So I know a little bit about computer systems already, about memory allocation, all that. So it's good things to know, when you're getting into a tech world, because you never know when other issues are going to come up besides just what your job is. You know, got to
I
know
guess
your way around computers.
yeah, one of the benefits of Lambda is kind of like gives you like a bit of like a narrow focus, and then you can always go because there's so much resource out there. Like there's so many YouTube videos about any and everything, and you can get kind of lost in the sauce, right? Like, oh, should I watch this one? Should I watch it? Which is more valuable? So I guess Lambda kind of gives you like a focus, like a narrow focus, and then you on your own can be like, oh, this is more. I want to explore this some more. Let me go check out YouTube's what they have, right?
Of course. So, once you know exactly which subjects that you should be focusing on, that clears the field a little bit, and then you can search just for natural language processing. Just for what's going on with convolutional neural networks today. You can actually jump into very specific subject matters instead of saying, what's data science? How do I become a data scientist? We're going to get everyone in the world wants to teach you, including me, about what makes what makes a good, good coder into a great data scientist. Yeah.
And data science is a pretty broad field, and there's things you could specify, and like machine learning, for example, that's really taken off. People are really trying to, zone in on that and create amazing machine learning systems and algorithms.
And it's going into things that we're seeing all the time. I mean, we don't really see what our phones are doing, in the cloud processing in backgrounds and all, but all of that's machine learning, in networks, predictions, predictive, like neural networks and things like that run Google searches that understand when we speak. And machine learning is coming up in other very impressive areas like, self-driving vehicles, Google Maps in general, drone deliveries. All of these things are going to need, some pretty impressive, robust machine learning algorithms, models.
That's so cool. I saw this video on Twitter. It was like this robot learned this like very choreographed dance, and it was all done through machine learning.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was that a Boston Dynamics video?
Say it again.
So was that the Boston Dynamics video?
Yeah, right? You saw that?
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I was like, this is dope.
Pretty impressive what those guys are doing.
Yeah, seriously.
You get the dog and the robots and then the Rolly robot and
and they were doing like complex choreography. It wasn't just like move an arm. It was like very complex and
doing the actual twist and things, like shaking a single hip and like very, very intricate movements that we used to think were only possible by an organic machine, that we couldn't get that complex with machinery. And it's taken us a long, long time just to get to where we are.
But I also feel like we're also, even though it's taken a long time, it's still right now we're like in a very rapid phase.
We're at the very beginning of this. People are like, oh my gosh, we're in a brand, we've broken into the future. No, we're at the very, very beginning of the technology age. Just the beginning.
It's like exciting and also daunting at the same time, because I feel like, wow, we're doing so much, but if we're just at the beginning, I can't even like fathom what it's going to look like in the middle,
I mean, you got to think about it like this. We're the first lifetime. that personal computers even existed. You know, like we are like this is this is just the very beginning.
Right.
You know, so we get through all of our lives and we've seen how quickly the progress has come and how even more quickly it continues to expand.
Right.
um yeah, where are we going to be in 100 years, like 400 years, like
Right. It's like mind-boggling.
right.
Well, that's if we make it, right? Because we also have all these pandemics and natural disasters happening. So
I think unnatural disasters are more likely to kill us than the natural ones. I think as long as we as a human species can refrain from killing ourselves, all completely, or in each other,
right.
we'll make it. Life always finds a way.
Finds a way. But
It's
it's like, are we gonna
Jurassic
like
Park.
100 years from now or 400 years from now, are we gonna be this advanced technological society, or we're gonna be like the primitive beings, like
Well, the theory is,
like Mad Max type thing?
that within about 100 years, um, we should be able to become a type 1 civilization. I don't know if you know about the type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations
Mm-hmm.
theory.
I've heard this
Um,
theory, yes.
yeah, so type
Well,
1 civilization
yeah.
is able to live harmoniously and use all the resources on their own planet. Um, with basically live without war as a one world species.
Right.
The type 2 civilization then ventures off to not only use all the resources of their planet, but of their sun, is able to encompass all that energy, empowering things like, ships and other things that gets us off planet, gets us out of the solar system
Right.
possibly, I mean, gets things moving a lot faster. We're able to create, um, you know, whatever the next technology that gets us to move quickly enough to go somewhere far enough away, to maybe find another planet that's livable. Not just like a Mars planet that we might be able to survive on,
Right.
and possibly terraform. We don't even know if that's a 100% possibility. Um, but so yeah, then the type 2 is able to harness all the power of their solar system, let's say. And then the type 3 civilization, which who knows how long that would take us to become. If we were able to make it off, we became a multi-planet species. We go into a type um, 3 civilization, then we'd be able to harness all the energy of our entire galaxy, which means we'd have like harvesting, you know, whatever. I've seen like models of the thing where it's like something like that wraps around the sun that's just like taking in all the solar energy and like wirelessly transmitting it to all the places that need it, rather than just whichever direct rays we're getting of the sun at the time. We're able to, but I
So
don't
you're
know what that would
predicting.
look like for a solar, for a whole galaxy.
So you're predicting in 100 years we're going to be a type 1 society.
Yes, I would hope so.
You're optimist.
I am very much an optimist in this case because there has to be a point when we come together, and if it's not over, like it's not. I don't know. I mean, I guess wars are still going on, through coronavirus, but I feel like there's been a whole lot less like, I don't know. Maybe it's because the news is only focusing on COVID-19.
Right.
But there's not a whole lot of world news going on about like big, huge destructive events, or people being killed or bombed or anything.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, like, I feel like the media itself is not very reliable.
yeah.
And
But with
I don't know, I'm surprised that you feel that way, because I feel like 2020 had like some pretty major like hiccups where like there was a lot of like divisiveness about, like amongst people.
in America, yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying we're going to be an American type 1 civilization either.
I
And
don't
I
know,
think
like not just
I
in
think the
America,
time,
like
I
in
think if anything,
China,
it's
like,
kind of,
like
go ahead.
you have no voice, the government suppresses you, like people who like reported about the COVID situation were arrested, never heard from. So I mean, like, there's things happening, there's Boko Haram, like there's some, not great things taking place.
I mean, that's all, like you said, in your perspective and what's just shown by media. Like, I feel like there's probably lots of happy people in China. You know, I know that China's already living in like, because maybe it's because they're so controlled by the government that they allow, you know, the the way of life to go there, but they have a way of life where nobody walks around with cash. Everybody walks around with their phone. It's got their identities on it. Their identities in their face even. They can
Right.
go to certain places and just buy things with their face. You know, and some people would look at that like, oh my God, that's so scary. That's Big Brother, you know what I mean? But like,
Right.
but they're not getting robbed, you know, there's nobody that can, so it's going to squelch violence and people like going for those sort of those like, I don't know, only a very particular type of
Right.
violence is, you know,
And I also
instead of getting
feel like
robbed.
China is also a very homogeneous society that's not really they're not like a global phenomenon. You know what I mean? Like they're not incorporating people from other places into their like system. It's very
Oh, but
homogeneous.
they very much are.
I don't know.
They
Like I've heard
very
stories
much
about
are.
people who like not from China who go to China and there's like, discrimination, blatant racism.
Oh well, maybe not within China, but they're definitely, you know, outside of China. Their influence of like what they're doing, their the example of how they're, you know, they've got cameras everywhere. You get like you walk across the street in China and you jaywalk. There's a picture of you. It takes a picture of you and it posts pictures of everyone that did this, so you're publicly shamed,
Right.
you know, for jaywalking, along with the fact that you're fined automatically.
Right.
So like it's okay. Like I don't want to get behind, you know, and I got to be careful how I word all this because I'm not trying to say I'm all for this, do this here,
Right.
but at the same time, it's like once you get a certain amount of um, security going on, that people know that things are being watched, that they're safe wherever they are, they can get those things off their mind. You know, then people are able to focus on other things. And as long as that, you know, this isn't going to be evilly twisted into a, you know, 1984 scenario, which we've all know the story, even if we haven't read the book, of how, you know, people, even their very thoughts are policed
Right.
by, you know, the government.
Yeah.
We all know about that, so we're not going to let that happen. As long as we are not going to let that happen,
But who's
then
going to be in charge of make sure that doesn't happen though?
who's in charge of everything and anything? Everyone. You know, in the United States, we're a democracy, so you know,
Yeah,
in
but
turn,
like I mean, in the United States we've seen
all.
where our democracy is not exactly working correctly.
What do you mean?
Like in the United States, for example, like the popular vote didn't really help the last election, right? So like the populace itself doesn't seem to have much power. Like the power is vested in this electoral college,
Well, the
right? And even
electoral
like within the
college
Congress,
electoral college
right?
has
Like
to go the way that the popular vote in that state has voted.
right, but like if the majority of the population voted for one person, but the electoral college, whatever their system is, selects the other candidate because that's how it goes, then it's not really speaking to the majority vote. And then, for example, the Congress is like what, Republican right now, but there's only about 40% of the population is actually Republican. So how is there a Republican Congress? So like I feel like our government is not really
You mean the
reflecting
Senate
the
or the House?
populace.
Let's not talk.
Okay. All right.
Definitely, we can talk about this more, but
Yeah.
the Congress is not Republican. The Senate might
The
be.
Senate. The Senate and
Senate
the
is
Senate one
close.
has the
Is
most power,
close
right?
to. They haven't even finished all the senators' elections yet, but the Senate is being close to getting a majority, um, and that's state by state voted.
Right.
It's not, you know, if there are less than 40% of American public are Republicans, then a lot more of them must be voting than the Democrats.
I guess. But like, for example,
So
when President
you,
Obama was in power, he technically has the right to nominate a Supreme Court justice, and Mitch McConnell was able to stop that democratic process. That's unprecedented.
well,
So I am not sure if the
what's that to
democracy in
do with who's
America
in
is
charge?
actually working correctly.
I don't know. I don't know what you. I don't know what you. I'd like to see what, you know, your thoughts are on it in data, because I don't. I'm not really getting it from your couple examples, but I think like what we have is, you know, I don't see a better way, honestly. I would like to see a lot more parties get having a fighting chance. Um, but I don't necessarily think that, I know a better way to run an entire country of millions and millions and millions of people.
No, I'm not saying that. And I know, like, I mean, America is probably one of the better ones, but it's not perfect. And we have to acknowledge that.
Of course, it's not perfect. Yeah. I mean,
it needs a lot of work.
But which country is, People would argue that China
Canada.
People would argue that the U.S. that the former USSR that their way of doing things is perfect, where everybody has an equal share or is granted a share of the pot, and Canada's a good example, but Canada's also democracy, right?
Right. But I feel Canada, especially in this pandemic, has stepped up in a way that the United States has not for its citizens.
How's that?
Well, like Canada has like a extensive universal care system. Canada is like giving monthly stimulus checks to citizens. So I think Canada is really trying.
But those things were happening before the pandemic. They already had, the healthcare system free for all, and they already were giving monthly checks to everyone before the pandemic. Canada just.
So I feel like they have a system in place that is more thoughtful of their citizens than in this country.
It's definitely set up in Canada that you don't have to work or do anything and you can get by. Like there's no homeless people there because everybody gets at least, like $1,500 a month if you're not making any money, or if you're not making at least a certain amount of money. So, I mean, they're set up that there's a lot less, I guess, lower class, or like, hungry. There aren't going to be very many hungry people unless you're crazy and on the streets. I don't mean, crazy in the bad way. I mean, just unless you're, don't want to take advantage of the government's, programs.
Right.
And then it's on you. But I mean, yeah, Canada's set up that you can do nothing and get by, but they're also not producing a whole lot of, it's not a model that's set up to produce a lot of positive things. Like, I don't know. I try to think of things super objectively, not just from the human standpoint, but from like, as if I were someone looking in. Like the United States produces some amazing things. We've got amazing minds that are very motivated to do wonderful things. In like Elon Musk and like, Neil deGrasse Tyson and like Stephen Hawking, God rest his soul.
No, America definitely has some brilliant minds and, the most billionaires or millionaires or whatever. But
I mean, I wouldn't count billionaires and millionaires being like a positive thing necessarily.
Well, I mean, I just feel like with all those accomplishments that you would think that a thing that would be a priority for us is making sure that nobody is in poverty or nobody's impoverished or homeless or starving in a country that's so rich, Well,
it's unfortunately not a priority for the people that have the money. And I don't think that necessarily our entire country is so rich. I think that just like most places, the wealth is spread over like a very small percentage of the people. The majority of the wealth is very much in the small percentage of the people's pockets, and those people are very much in control over what they do with their money, and they can go the way Jack from Twitter did and give $1 billion just to charity and say, I want to know where it's all going, and but I'm pledging this amount of money to go to charitable efforts around the world, some of it being here, some of it in the US, or you can be like others that just want generations upon generations of their own family to never have to deal with any hardships or whatever. Setting up trust funds, all that. I'm sure he's probably done that too. I don't even know if he has family.
Right.
But I mean, there's definitely.
Like I'm saying, like if you had a system like, let's say Canada, for example, we wouldn't have this large disparity in America as far like the wage gap or the wealth gap.
I think the ultimate answer eventually will be one that's discussed in videos like like Thrive, the movement, where they discuss like, I guess you'll be paid, or people will be um, rewarded due, based on their contribution to society, on how much what they're doing is important. On how much, what they can offer, what their skills are, what they can do. And I mean, that's kind of like, you could argue that that's kind of what goes on now.
Yeah, but I feel like that theory only works if we're all starting from the same starting point, right? Like if you're from a section or class of society where you've been oppressed the entire time, generation, you really are not in a position to produce anything. Like you don't have those resources to accomplish those things. And I think it's unfair to be like, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstrap when you're in a system where you're constantly being oppressed.
I'm talking about like, I guess a fanciful, does not exist yet sort of situation. But this would be after, like, let's say the American dollar crashes. It's no longer a monetary system. Nobody's money means anything at all anymore in the US. I doubt that will ever come about, because the American dollar um, is not just valued by the faith that we put into it, but it's also backed by the United States Army, which is one of the hugest military forces that there are. So it's basically, it's a combination of two things. You can't just have a country where everybody does nothing at all, like Canada, or not nothing at all, but has no requirement to do anything at all. But Canada also is kind of under our umbrella, that no one's going to attack Canada because they're right above the United States of America. No, it's like, I don't know about the Canadian Army. I know nothing about the Canadian Army, but I've never heard of there even being a Canadian Army.
I'm sure they have one.
I'm sure they might, but I've never seen them, heard of them, or anything. So I don't think they're getting involved in very much worldwide. I mean, if Canada is, if we're so cold, I'd probably move there myself. I don't know. I don't think. I don't really know though. I don't know. I don't really know. I can't say for sure that they're any better.
Well, Bitcoin is going to be the new currency. It's going to be the new world currency, global currency.
Nah, I
don't. It's like up to what, like a 35,000 something or something now? It's like
it broke like 36K, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I watch that stuff too because I get involved in not only am I involved with the stock market and Forex, but yeah, 33, it's 33,000, 33.8 right now. But that's cool, all well and good. But last time it got up to like 20 some thousand, it was down. Let's see. No, it never got up to 20, excuse me. It got up to like 15 or 16,000. But either way, it went all the way back down to 5,000 or something. So like everyone that bought in late thinking it was awesome and this is going to keep on going forever, then like lost a third of their, 2/3 of their money. It sucks. You know what I mean? So it's like we need something that's going to be a little more stable than that. Maybe after all Bitcoin are made and there's no more, no more crazy volatility in the price of Bitcoin. Right now, people are just using it as a way to make money. They're putting money into it, waiting till it grows, and then pulling all their money out of it, which will drive the value back down.
Right. So if you have it, sell it now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that.
I'm kidding. I'm not in Bitcoin at all. So like, don't take my advice.
But yeah, it is important though to think about things like you're talking about, like who's in charge, what's going to happen, But I mean, the more important thing to do besides talk about it is to get involved.
Right.
If you're a person that wants to know that, if you have struggles, if you think you've been oppressed or whatever, get involved. There's nothing stopping anyone from actually getting involved. And I mean, you might not like the bootstrap terminology, but sometimes that's a lot of what it is. I know people that have come out of tough situations and made it made it very big, made it well, did all right. I hope to be one of them eventually. You
Right.
know, so yeah, I think it's you know, not everybody has an equal opportunity in the world coming up, but it's also not a reason to never try. And then I think that anyone that's willing to try, when there's schools out there now that are, not high school graduate based, they're not, based on anything except, do you want to try?
Right.
And you can do it for free when your only prerequisite is a laptop, and some time. Um, then yeah, I think it's getting to a point when anyone will be able to get involved in good paying jobs, and I should say a livable wage job,
Right.
because there's no doubt about it. The United States of America has failed in minimum wage growth over the past like 15 or so years. Um, it just has gone barely. It's just been edging barely up towards it. I'm surprised it took so long, because it was, when I started working, it was like 4.25 minimum wage back in like the 90s, and it only went up to like $8 in like 2018 or something.
Right.
It took a
Yeah.
while
Minimum wage.
before it even
Yeah.
got to $10. Like, that's a long time.
That's a long time. It definitely has not gone the trend of like cost of living and inflation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But cost of living has continued to rise. Minimum wage has stayed stagnant. So like,
Yeah.
so that's another thing they've got going on. They plan to get minimum wage up to $15 in the next few years.
Oh my God, I hope Biden eliminates student loans. Oh my God, I'd love him forever.
If that's a thing, I mean, that's not going to stop anyone that owes a student loan, I don't think, but that would eliminate the future of people being trapped into
I thought that the idea was for him to like wipe out all current student loan debt. Like, I'd be down for that.
I mean, that's
like,
possible.
Cancel my student loans.
That's possible. I mean, that'd be great for me too, because I mean, I only went for a semester. I still have student loans from University of Delaware. That's why I couldn't get a FAFSA anymore. I wasn't able to get any more federal aid until I paid at least a year, got my loans at a default, all that. And which is something I'll still do. I'll still have to do eventually, unless they're wiped clear. But with all that in place, I was that's the other reason I thought, wow, look at Lambda. It's an ISA. I can get in. I don't have to worry about getting any loans. I don't have to pay twice as much as I am supposed to have to pay, which was twice as much as Lambda was going to want anyway for just 1 year of 4 years. So I'm paying like an eighth of as much as I would to get a 4-year degree at a college, having to do a bunch of other, you know, stuff, subjects, I should say.
Right.
I say topics, but whatever. A bunch of other subjects that I wasn't as interested in, sociology, history. Those are all great if you're into them. I mean, I do okay in classes like that. Sociology was actually pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But there's lots of classes that you're going to write all these papers, you're going to do all this work, and for what? When you're going to come out of it, and you're never going to use any of it except the parts that you're going to school for.
Right.
In a perfect world. So like, that's why I wanted to come out. I wanted to go through Lambda, get focused in on coding again, which was what I always wanted to do. And I would have done really, really well if I could have ever gotten to a program like that coming straight out of high school, as is available now. And especially one that I didn't have to jump through all these hoops, gather loans, get my parents involved with paying for everything like that. Like, I could just promise them, okay, how about this? If this works and you it's going to work, I'll believe you, but just let me pay you once I already get the job. That way I know it works.
It's an industry that's like on demand and rising. So your potential to earn is great.
And I think with Lambda, their motivation in this is it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It might start off slow. It might start off that they're barely making ends meet. That they're only bringing in, let's say they take in 400 students a month which is quite a lot. If you think about it, like, I
Yeah.
don't know how many
Well,
people joined web or how many people, I know that we had like about 55 in data science, more people than that joined the full
right.
stack.
But like when we started off in our data science program, there was a quite a few people, and then it has declined tremendously.
Yes, yes. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they're no longer in Lambda School data science. It
Right.
just means that they're no longer in our cohort.
Right.
They haven't continued on with us. They decided to retake some subjects, which is another great thing about Lambda. It's not just if you fail it, you're done, move on, take it again next year or something. It's you can say, okay, I didn't quite get that. Let me do that over and just redo the last month or 2 months
Right.
of part time. Make sure you're solid in it before moving forward. And that's without any extra charge added on. You're getting that's two different instructors for the same subject. You're getting it really solidified in your head before moving on, and the concepts are solid, so that you're ready for your interviews and things like that. So I love the idea. I'm really it almost upsets me seeing how many people have been upset about the changes in Lambda School, because
Mhm.
they've shortened the school, and some people got angry about that. They're like, I paid for my 18 months. I want my 18 months. I'm like, I paid for Lambda to help me get a job, and I can get it in 6 months earlier than that. That's what I want.
Right.
So I don't know. It bothers me because I saw it discourage a lot of people. A lot of people started getting, the chat started quieting down. The mood started getting a little more somber.
Yeah.
People started losing faith in whether Lambda School really had their best interest in heart. And it takes everyone. It takes like a good vibe from all your cohort, your classmates. I feel like for some people to really keep this thing going, because it's a sprint. Don't get me wrong when I say it's quick. It's not painless. It is quick, but
Right.
you definitely are pushing
Yeah.
most of the
But people like are not good with change. And I feel like for a program that's already pretty intense, to have a change, especially right before like the beginning of the most, everybody keeps telling you is the most difficult unit. It's gonna bother some people.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know, and people are generally you know don't like change, but the only constant is change.
Change. Right.
Things are always going to change, and
Yeah.
including what we all have been learning over these past few years. They might get us through a couple years, but a couple years after that, that's all going to change. We might have to take another course and
Right.
another course and
Keep up.
another,
Yeah.
and have to continue to do this. So like, it's not always going to be one way. So it's like I just looked at it like that. Like maybe okay, it's if Lambda tells me that they went around to all of a bunch of interviewers, a bunch of other companies and said, what is it you're looking for in your students, or they've got this information from whatever methods they've just gotten this information, whether it's people that came to them and said, hey, they asked me how to do this and this in my interview, and how come we didn't learn about that, or they asked me all this but they weren't impressed at all that I knew this,
Right.
whichever ways they came about their information. They've taken the computer science part of the course and they've slimmed it down to about half the time that it was. And that doesn't mean you learn half as much. You might learn just about as much, but you spend a little less time on some of the subjects that they, as far as they tell us, that they felt like weren't as important or weren't as sought after anymore.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I feel like it's if it is a way for them to get more people out into the work field more quickly so that they can get more money coming in, and then they can also cycle people through, have more people ready for the people that they have, whatever their methods are for doing, or the reasoning is for doing it. I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't affect whether or not I'm able to break into this career field.
Right.
And I feel like I'm hungry enough for it, and I'm personally going to do my best to make sure that I'm ready in everything that Lambda has to prepare me for, and a few things that I can find on my own, because this is what I want to do. So
Yeah.
and in saying that, I know that I have that drive, I have that motivation to keep myself going through changes and things like that. I don't necessarily like it all. I have voiced my opinion on some things. I've let them know which things I think that weren't working well. I've silently protested other things that weren't going to work at all by, participation, things like that. But um, but when it comes to the actual amount that we'll be learning, I don't think we're sacrificing.
Right. No,
And
I agree. I just, like I know some people like are either like not working or, they're trying to schedule their life around Lambda. And so when they're like meeting like these unnecessary hiccups, it can affect them because they're like, I'm already sacrificing so much to do this program. And it's not going as smooth as it was before. Like I feel deceived, you know?
I hear you, but I feel like those people should love the fact that they're getting out 6 months earlier than they expected to.
No, that I think is definitely a plus. I just think some of like the restructuring as far as like TLs and T-leans and all that kind of stuff, where like you feel like who's really, checking in on you, who's making sure what you're doing is on the right path.
Yeah.
That seems to kind of like fall into the wayside a bit.
Yeah, that was addressed. I don't know if you saw that in announcements, but they've definitely taken in that feedback from enough different angles that they're making some big changes on that, and they're going to have an assessment personnel assigned to each student, so that whether it's random or whether it's weekly, you'll have somebody that's checking over your assignments. So there is some
Right.
sort of but really it's on us. I mean, college is there. They have college that's pass fail. They have college that's graded. But either way, like the amount that you actually learn is on you when
Right.
you're in higher education. Um, you know, and I get that. I definitely do better. I feel like I do better and I learn more when I know someone's going to be checking my work, when I have something to show someone, when I can get some feedback back. I learn better and I'm able to be more successful that way. And
I don't think it's even like wanting to grade, just wanting to know, like, am I on the right track? Am I going about this the right way?
Right.
Just to know that you're on the right path, I think is what people want. Because like you don't want to invest all this time, you're doing all these projects, and then you're like, oh, that really is not the right thing to do, or that's not really successful. Like if somebody had told me from before, I could make corrections, I could do something else, I could, so I think that's what people want. Like they want to just have feedback, like, hey, you're good,
yeah, I think it's important that things work, and if you can get them to work, then you're definitely a lot better off than when you started.
Right.
If you want them to work optimally, to be the best out there in the world that there is, probably none of us are going to get that just from Lambda School.
Right.
There's always ways to make things faster, cleaner. The code more concise, or just there's always ways to improve, but that's up to us to do. They're pretty much like laying out the scaffolding for us as far as where we should be learning. And a lot of people are taking it as if they're teaching us the entire world of data science, but they're admittedly not. They're just
Right.
touching on a lot of these subjects.
Yeah.
It's on us to really dig into them if we really enjoy them, to make our own side projects, to do things to further our experience. And a lot of that will come in the workforce. Once we show them what we can learn, what we have done, they'll say, okay, this person knows enough about, at least has practiced with these things that we use. Even if they haven't, they've practiced enough with Python to know how to learn these things that we use. Because that's
Right.
the one major thing I think is most of the companies are going to be looking for people that are good in Python, that know a little bit of SQL, have some machine learning experience, training models, working with data. The rest of it's just kind of like icing on the cake. So,
Right.
when you get into the creating applications and all that, yeah, there are companies out there that are going to want you to do that. Do you want to work for those companies? I don't know. I'd actually rather be on one that's got a team of people,
Right.
full stack web designers over there doing that. Team of people just working on the data science and just being in the data science part, because otherwise the responsibility is all on you.
Yeah.
Make sure the whole thing works without a hitch. Everybody that logs in puts their password in, all of that works well. And And we'll be learning that. We'll
Yeah.
wait to get to computer science and labs. It's going to be.
So I guess the takeaway from this is you have to have the drive and the
Yeah,
hunger,
you do.
and you will succeed.
Yeah, yeah. We've talked about Lambda like it's the greatest thing on earth, but you definitely, if you're listening to me, listen to this part. You definitely need to want it. You have to want it for yourself, and you have to show that you want it daily for about a year straight, or it's going to be tough. It's
Yeah.
going to be tough. So, well, thank you, Sidani. We have gone on and on. I love it that when we go off of, I just don't even know the time is passing by sometimes. I think we've gone over an hour at this point, but we don't set ourselves a time limit. We just like having conversations about
Absolutely.
data science in the world as we know it. So,
And we like tangents. We go off in tangents, but we always come back.
yes, we work our way back around ever so slowly, eventually.
Yeah.
Back to where we started. It's great. It's great. So yeah,
Awesome.
I enjoy these. I hope everybody out there enjoys them as well. And I'm Timothy Aiken.
I'm Sidani Daly. Thank you for joining us, and please leave your comments on anything we talked about.
Yes, like, subscribe, share. Please share. And thank you for joining us on another episode of Spill the Day.
Thank you.